Hey there YouTube, welcome on back to ArtichokeDip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And in this video, this has been a very unique video for me. As a matter of fact, it's been actually a learning experience. It's kind of why I haven't put out anything recently. And I had two terrain pieces that I had started, primered, and they've been sitting over here on my shelf just beckoning me every time I looked over there. And I had finally said, enough's enough. It's time to finish these and do something with them. So I had done that. But my experience in making videos in the past has always been hit the record button, go through, play an RPG, talk about a book, do a review, do whatever, and then go back through and just edit it where I had stumbled over words and messed up stuff like that. Nothing really, I'm gonna say, too arduous, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But when it came to doing these terrain pieces and the attention I had to give for detail and just the various different steps that I had to go through was a challenge, because my attention, it had to be on what I was working on in the detail. And I found it very hard to really try to narrate what I was doing right at that time and still focus on the terrain piece and a lot of the detail that I needed to put into it. So this video was very different. I had clicked that record button, went through and just started working on these terrain pieces to get them done before I even think about starting on my minis. I said, no, these will get done first. So it was a lot of editing involved, but I have to say, I think I made a pretty entertaining, concise video, and showing the terrain pieces through their various steps that they went through to get to the final, I'm going to say result. We'll say, yeah, final result for the Artichoke gaming table. So with that being said, before we get into it, a couple disclaimers I got to get out of the way. First thing is, if you like this video, this type of content, click the like button. Let me know and I'll do more like it. Second thing is, if you just stumbled upon my channel and you like everything tabletop gaming, from RPG games, terrain building and painting, and 28mm miniatures, all the awesome things, I'm just going to say, that go into tabletop gaming, well, you found the right place. Don't forget to click that subscribe button, followed by the bell icon. When I do upload a new video, you will get a notification so you do not miss one. All right, my friends, let's jump on over to the tabletop and let's start the video so you can see these terrain pieces from the beginning stages to the end and the final outcome. I hope you enjoy, my friends, and I look forward to hearing from you. Okay, so I have struggled with this since the beginning. And I guess that's because the first paint I had mixed for this that I thought was going to look real good and color I wanted when it dried. I mean, it does look like sand. It looks like very clean beach sand. And, well, that wasn't the color I was looking for. I wanted a more dirty dungeon look to it. An interior piece of the dungeon, not, you know, these tiles, I love them and everything, but after a while you want a little bit more variety than just gray all the time. And I kind of realized that in the last video I did. You know, I do a lot of stonework and I've done this for a while and I think I can do a pretty good job at it. But, you know, truth be known, you do want a different color sometimes, and that's what I was going for with this. but I wanted to make it more, how do I put this, deployable for a variety of role-playing games and not just strictly dungeon crawlers. So one of the things that I did do to this model is this was a 3D print. This was all flat. The stairs were flat, very sharply cut. It had some stones here and here, but they were okay. But compared to the rest of the model and just how ridiculous these large stone cutouts looked, it just looked so completely disproportionate to the wall up here. It was ridiculous. So I had decided to mix up a batch of Mod Podge, and then I took burnt umber paint and I put some sand in it, and I had spread it with a real thick brush and put all this texture in there on the outside. And then after I was done there, I let it dry, and then I put another coat of burnt umber paint over this to primer it again, and then I did the paint. So it really upset me when I got to the point when this paint dried that I originally mixed. It just was not what I wanted. But in the end, it all worked out. And like I said, I wanted to make this more adaptable to different RPG games. So that means adding more, we'll say, variety to it. And I thought about this, and I decided what I wanted to do, because if you look right here, you can see all these bubbles. And this is where, when I had applied the Mod Podge, air had gotten caught underneath the brush and it created bubbles. And as it dried, and obviously the bubbles popped, it left these little divots everywhere. Because everything else you see like this is actually sand. That's a large pile of sand mixture in the Mod Podge right there. So I thought it would be cool to fill these in with a water effect. Why not? I mean, you got a low spot here. This is a low spot that I can feel right there. And then, of course, this is an obvious low spot right here in this corner. And I have few options to do that I had thought about and thrown around. I'm going to get into here in a minute. But my ultimate goal as well was to just add a little bit more detail, particularly in these corners right here, these gaps between these stones and the stairway that just kind of looks, it looks clunky to me. I wanted to put some static grass just right here, right in here, and especially on the other side of the staircase right down here. That way it'll give the appearance this is the more well-worn path right here. Even if I wanted to, and we'll see how it goes after I get the stairway and probably a couple of these high spots in here done with some static grass. If it looks like the outer perimeter of it is going to need any static grassing, I mean, it very well may. You can see right here there's a 3D print texture right there, original one. You can see the lines in it, all the lateral lines down. So that may very well be an area where we're going to put some static grass as well. Out into this corner is right here. So yeah. But static grass is, you know, pretty straightforward. And one thing I can tell you about static grass that I learned, and I wish I would have remembered the video that I saw it in, but I don't, because I would have gave him a shout out. And the guy, just a fabulous terrain builder, and when he was applying static grass, you know, he was talking about methods and ways to do it. And it was funny because, you know, the best, most affordable way he found to apply static grass was not with these expensive applicators or like the shaker thing or any of that. What it was, and I tried it myself and it works excellent. I went to the dollar store and picked this up. And he's absolutely right. You just pour the static grass into the applicator and put it over to the area you want and just lightly tap it, and it will drop the static grass because it's going to fall through the screen. and it will fall vertically and stick into the glue, provided you got, you know, thick enough glue for it to do that. So that's going to be the fun part. Now, the other question I have to answer is this: what am I going to use for the water effect? Well, I got a couple of things at my disposal that I thought of. First thing is this blue Elmer's glue. It does dry this color blue, and all of these indentions would be a blue color, you know, where anybody could look at it and know that's obviously water. Here's the problem with this. It is subject to shrinkage. So once you put it on there, it's going to shrink, and then you can try reapplicating it with more glue, but ultimately what winds up happening is it just looks like hell, and it's hard to get it to really work the way I'd like it to. The other one that I've had some success with is this one right here, the clear Elmer's glue. And if you're filling in very shallow areas that can hold a decent sealed amount of water, yeah, it works, and you can do that, and I've done it with this. You know, the problem is the drying time is like forever. So it's when you do put it in and you set it aside, whatever it is, you have to let it sit for at least 72 hours or longer before I would even think about disturbing the model. But you can get some decent results from it, provided you have the patience to put layer after layer on, allow it to dry. It does take some time, but yeah, you can do it. But which brings me to the third option, which is the option I think I'm going to really do, which is this right here, just a realistic water from Woodland and Scenics. And I picked up a bottle of this, and so far I've had decent results with it. But what I want to do is I want to use this brush right here, which is actually a sponge, and just fill in these low areas like that, so I have more control over where I want the water effect. And then I can even double that water effect. I can pull it up onto the higher areas right here to where I want to apply the static grass, because the static grass will stick to it. That's one way you can do it. Personally, I don't think I'm going to do that, because what it'll do, the static grass will fall into my puddles and dry, and then it'll look like hell. So the first thing I have to do is fill in the water areas and let them dry thoroughly. And then after they have dried, I can come back and apply the glue, the PVA glue, and I will use a clear glue, and apply that around where I had the water effect, and then add the static grass. That way, once it dries, I can come back with a larger brush later on, like this, and just brush the excess static grass off of everything and get the final result of the model. So that's my plan. First thing is, let's apply some of the realistic water effect and see how this goes. Not going to need a whole lot of this, so I think this should work pretty dang well. Oh yeah. It's really pooling very well in them low spots. I already like the results I'm seeing. Okay. So I like that. That's going to look pretty decent. And I can fill in these other high spots where you see the air bubble areas with static grass to cover those up. And that'll work really well because it'll break everything up nicely and it'll look really good. It'll look really good when it's done. More low spots there. You can see another low spot here. And then, of course, I don't want to forget this back corner here. Actually, I'm going to put a really generous amount of this stuff back there. There we go. Yeah, that looks really good. I'm really happy with that. Maybe just a drop more there. There we go. All right, have to let this one dry and see how it turns out and move on with the static grass next after all this dries. See, you're probably going to need a lot more static grass than that. This stuff is just, for whatever reason, falling up together. And I'm trying to undo that. I'm thinking that's going to be enough of that static grass. Let's mix that up. See how much we have there. Yeah, that's definitely better. All right, so now I'm going to mix in some of this green, but I'm not going to do as much. Let me see how this is going to turn out. It should be a pretty good shade I'm hoping for. I know that sounds silly with static grass, but all right. Doesn't look bad. Doesn't look bad at all. Okay. So let's put this on the model. So first things first, let's get some glue. And then I want to put a whole lot. Alright, let's apply a little bit of glue. So I'm not going to put a whole lot on there. Like I said, I want this very controlled. I don't want to overdo it. So I got that area filled in right there. And let's do a little bit of static grass here and see how this works out. Perfect. Perfect. So I can pour the excess back. I don't need. I'll let that dry a little bit. Let's put a little bit more up here. All right. Let's get a little bit more light on that. See a little bit better. All right. And of course, I'm going to leave this area right here. This is all going to be like the most heavily traveled area up to the stairs, which is why I'm focusing the flock more so back here in these low areas where the water is. And I'm thinking right back here in this corner would be a really good area for this. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna have to let obviously this stuff dry for a little bit and then go back with a larger brush and clean off any of the loose stuff, which will be nice because then you're going to be able to see the water effect compared to where the static grass stuck, and it's going to look really good. I'm really happy with the way that it's turned out so far. But now I need to mix up some more static grass to go over some more of the areas that I want it to. So remembering my two colors, let me get that mixed up real quick. All right, so I think I got that right where I want it, and let's start applying the rest of the static grass, shall we? I'm gonna do the corners here of these stairs. Like so. Let's put some static grass on it. That area I will do as well. So I might as well put my glue here, and like so. So I'm not going to go down to the last step. All right, now let's get some flock going. All right. Got some flock going there now. It's gonna make that look more organic in my opinion. So first place I want to focus some of this flock on is right here, or static grass, however you want to refer to it. When I first learned this, it was called flocking. And it probably still is, to be honest with you. All right. Okay. That already looks a lot better. It's already tied that corner in very well. We're not really seeing any more of the 3D mold marks, 3D print marks. It's not molded, it's printed. So I think if I'm going to put any more, I'm going to put some up here, because I think that would look really good and kind of draw your eye into the whole thing. So let's put a little bit right there as well. And we'll run it across the top, like so. Alright, got my glue where I want it. Do I have enough flocking? That's going to be the question. All right, I think we got enough on there. Not too much to make it look like it's a forest floor, but enough just to accent the model. And like I said, it's going to have to sit and dry, and this is going to have to sit from anywhere to 12 to 24 hours before I'd even think about dry brushing it. And then that way I know whatever's stuck to the glue will be staying, and the rest will be removed with a brush. Okay, so it's been 24 hours since I had glued the static grass down and let it really sit and cure. And now I want to remove the excess that did not adhere, that's on the top layer. And I'm going to use an airbrush, just dry, clean air on inside of these areas right here, very carefully, because I don't want to break any of the static grass off. I just want to use a gentle removal method, I guess I would say, with the airbrush, but it shouldn't be too difficult. And then, of course, these outer parts, I can just take a brush like this, and I can just brush them out like so. And I just let the excess fall onto the mat. And then if I wanted to, I could always go back in and dry brush that a little bit with green paint very delicately, just to highlight it green. But I think I'm going to leave it like it is. I think it looks pretty good. It breaks. It could use some more right here, definitely, to cover the more than 3D printed lines right there. So I'm going to have to touch it up right there. But heck. All right, let's get into the airbrush and see what the airbrush will do. And here it is. And I think I accomplished what I set out to do. It looks pretty good. And you can see where the static grass has clung to them areas. But it's not overdone to the point of too much vegetation. But there is that one area back here that I still have to touch up and put a little more static grass on, but I will have to mix up a fresh batch in order to do that. So, okay, so I'm going to dry brush these static grass in here to highlight some of these areas to really break up where the static grass is and make it more pronounced against the water effect that I had put in here. So let's do that. I'm going to use a Wedgwood green, and this is an old paint set I had picked up years back at a garage sale, and it's called Delta Cream Coat. I've never heard of this or ran across it, but I have to admit I like the shade of green, so let's put some of that on there and dry brush it in. Now, to do this, I'm going to need a very soft brush, and I'm not going to really need to overdo it either. I don't want to saturate the static grass to the point it's indescribable from the, I'm going to say, terrain texture. I want it to, matter of fact, pop out. I want it to add more depth into it, if you will. So that's what I'm going to use this for. But I'm going to mainly focus around these deeper areas of water where it'll really attract your eye, and it'll actually give more depth to these areas as well. So first things first, I want a really, really light coating of this. There we go. You can see right there, I got a very light coating. So let's start. Very gently. I don't want to, like I said, disturb the static grass or overpaint it. Now I'm going to need some more paint. Looks pretty good right here. It started to take it in, look pretty decent. But I might have to go a little bit heavier on the paint this time. There we go. That's definitely making it look a lot better. It has more, definitely adds more depth to it. Thing I like is the mixture between the barren spots right here where there is no, looks like vegetation growing, compared to here where you can actually see it growing up against the walls back here. And just a highlight. And I'm going to do the same with these areas right here, tying everything in as well. So I'm going to check my brush. Okay, need a little bit more paint for that. No. I wonder if I can do something with that back here. Maybe I could. Gives me an idea what I can do there. So let me highlight this a bit. And then get that area right there. And blend that in to look just like a rock. Highlighting it there, and then I'm going to highlight it right here as well. Bam. Definitely looks a lot better, and I don't have to worry about reapplying because it just looks like a rock at this point. Your eye isn't really drawn to it anymore. So that one looks pretty good. I think I'm pretty happy with that terrain piece. And we're gonna put some minis out on that to see how it looks. So now that I got that other terrain piece, at least in the final stages where I'm doing more of the finer detail work, it gives me time to work on this terrain piece now, which is the graveyard. And I have to say I've been excited about doing this one. And I have sourced some pictures of exhumed burial sites, stuff like that, you know, to really look at the different soil colors and just the overall terrain that you would see, both fantasy and, you know, real life pictures. And so at least gives me a better idea of how to make this terrain piece just really stand out onto its own. green wash, and I went over the entire model. And one other thing I did do to make these areas here to draw your eye more, if you will, is before I put the wash on, I took a white and paint and a very, very dry brush, very dry, and I just highlighted over the cross here and the large crack area, as well as the highlights on these headstones with what looks like a crown right here. And this kind of reminds me of a Celtic knotwork type of headstone, whereas if we have another crucifix over here, and behind it there's a cool, almost looks like a Greek type of design to me back here in this headstone. And of course this one's just broken at the top. And then of course we have two broken crucifixes over here. This headstone that's toppled, and then this one off its base. So I decided, yeah, after all that, I put a green wash on it, let it sit, and the next step on this model piece is going to be the static grassing of it. So let's get to that, and let's mix up some static grass and start applying it to it. Okay, first thing is, let's pour some of this flocking in there. I'm going to be covering a large area of to be this green right here. Okay, so I'm going to want to continue the flocking down this way anyways, but I haven't glued here yet, so I'm just going to glue over what's existing right here and allow that to soak in, and then I'm going to come back and do another coating just to recover that. And then that way, when I go back to flock, I can just put a strip of glue over the existing. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, my next area I would cover with flocking. It's going to be these areas through here. It's going to be my next choice, I would say. Static grass on it. I don't want to be running my brush through that. So I'm just going to paint this area down. The glue. I said paint. All right. Applying the glue back here and applying the static grass back there. And of course I can't forget in between these headstones either, so, but that'll be pretty simple. I can just run a bead of glue through that and let it flow up there in those areas. First thing I'm going to do is just draw a line of glue right side of the cemetery finished. All right. First area I'm going to hit is going to be right here. All right, so here we are. I had put in the flocking down on this, and I had let this sit for a total of 48 hours before I even thought about doing anything with it, just to make 100% certain that all the glue is thoroughly dried. Because with a terrain piece like this, if I was to mess up on this part of it, it would be a nightmare trying to strip all this stuff off of here and restart over again. As a matter of fact, for the amount of time put into it already and the cost of the terrain piece, it probably wouldn't even have been worth it, which is why I wanted to wait. So first things first, let's start clearing the flocking off of this, and it should remove pretty easily. Yeah, you can already see it's gonna look really good. But I'm gonna use my airbrush, and I'm gonna use just compressed air to try to remove as much of this as I can, and then go back over it with the brush after I'm done. And I can already see it's removed a lot of the excess that I anticipated would have come loose anyways. All right, that wasn't too bad. And so far what I'm seeing, I'm pretty happy with it actually. And of course, I'm gonna have some areas like this. That's where I had a mishap with my brush and where it had caught the flocking. That's what I'm talking about right there. But seeing that it's on the edge, it's very easy just to actually break that off and get things moving. But now I'm gonna go over it. Always use a soft brush when you do this if you decide to work with flocking. If you worked with flocking before, you understand what I'm talking about and you know what I'm doing. If you have not and you're new to flocking, then you are going to want to be very mindful of using a soft brush, because if you use a hard bristled brush and you go over this and just start brushing over everything, there's a good possibility you're going to damage your flocking, and you probably won't be too happy with the outcome. But so far what I'm seeing is pretty dang cool. Now I still have been thinking about this area right here, if I'm gonna put some water effect in, and I'm still deciding whether I want to do that or not, or if I want to leave it as is, because the only thing I'm worried about is the water effect actually running out here onto this terrain piece and ruining it. But at the same time, I think it would look really cool to have some water effect down here and to have this look like it's submerged underneath water. I think that would just add a different level of, how do I put this, coolness to it, I guess we'll say. Coolness, is that even a word? Coolness. So let me see. Well, and I really hate at this point to have something go wrong with that water effect, and it's going to be extremely hard to try to control it in here. So I'm thinking maybe at a later time I'll do that. Maybe not right now. But I have to say, I'm pretty happy how that turned out. It's looking pretty dang good. I got really good glue coverage over all of this. And, you know, as I said, use a paintbrush for that and just control your glue where you put it. and you're going to be much happier with the outcome of it. Like I said, you could see right here, mainly, where I didn't even highlight that with the green. I wanted to leave this all exposed as like open earth, as well as here and down around these corners. And it worked very well for that. You know, I was able to control it and really, yeah, really just be able to control it and put the flocking where I wanted it, how I wanted it, instead of being at the mercy of glue just running wherever it does with gravity and hoping it's gonna, you know, the final outcome is gonna turn out well. Well, with this way, you know how it's gonna turn out. And it turned out very well. Very, very well. So, I'm just going to, basically what I'm doing right here, right now, is I am pulling the static grass up, so the static grass will be more vertical, and it'll look more so like field grass, if you will. I think it looks pretty good. I think it's looking pretty dang good. As a matter of fact, I think the next thing to do from this point is to get some decent pictures of it and see where to go from there. All right. All right, my friends, there we have it. I am very pleased with the final outcomes of both of these, and they're going to be great additions to my terrain pieces, and I'm looking forward to using them. And I'm happy. I'm very happy for the fact that these are no longer sitting over here, you know, just primered black and burnt umber, and just kind of, like I said, just sitting there going, hey, you need to paint me. And they're done. They're finally at last done. And I have a huge sigh of relief, because what that means is that I am finally done with the painting end of it, all of the steps I went through, and on top of that, the video. I finally made it to the end of the video, and like I said, this is a very, it was a great learning experience for me, I guess I should say. And it's kind of given me more confidence to want to make more videos like this, to where now I know how to capture, you know, those angles in perspective better, I should put, to be able to really be able to show you guys out there more detail in how I do this and keep it entertaining, and not just be a video where all you hear is a constant airbrush running and just, and you know, that would drive me nuts. That would just drive me absolutely nuts. So, you know what? With that being said, I think this is where the video is going to round out. I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, let me know. Drop me a comment below and let me know what you liked about it, and where maybe, you know, if you have any suggestions, how I could improve some of them angles and stuff like that, you know, let me know down in the comments as well. Or heck, just drop me a comment and say hi. That works as well. So with that being said, my friends, this is where, like I said, I'm going to round the video out. And this is ArtichokeDip signing off. Until next video, my friends.